Hello everyone, I'm Kristen Oakes White. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. My partner Avery Davidson is out this week for a family funeral. Well, more than 100,000 Tiger fans take it for granted that their team will have pristine turf grass come game day. However, a change in the federal guest worker program could impact football fields, manicured lawns, and cups of coffee across Louisiana. That's because recent changes to the H2B program could make it impossible for landscapers and sugar mills to get the workers they need to stay in business. As TWILA's Avery Davidson shows us, the company which put sod down in Death Valley is missing a third of its workforce.
Success on the football field requires a team effort. Not just the teams playing on the field, but the team who takes care of the turf on the field. That's what Troy Romero does. His business is called Sports Turf Specialists, and on this day, his team is making sure the University of Louisiana at Lafayette Ragin' Cajuns have a well-maintained field for practice. But Romero is a few men short of his usual championship-ready team.
A majority of my workers are caught in Mexico, and there's no legal option of getting them here.
Romero relies on the H2B guest worker visa program to fill the jobs locals will not do.
The government mandates that as a business owner or as an employer, I have to advertise for this job ahead of time. I have to prove that there's a need and that there's for these workers to come. And I have to hire any American worker that applies, that qualifies. So it's self-regulated. There's really no reason not to have either the returning worker provision or to increase the amount of visas that are available to the people of the United States.
The reason Romero's workers are stuck in Mexico is because of recent changes to the H2B visa program. Previously, returning workers like those Romero is trying to get were not counted against the yearly limit of 66,000 H2B visas. Now they are. Twice, Romero filled out all of the paperwork to get those 5 workers here, only to be denied because the program had already hit the cap.
It's 5 brothers, so they're all associated with each other. They know each other, and they're like family to me. I've been to Mexico. I've visited with their families, their wives, their children. They're just wonderful, wonderful, good Christian people.
Like this sand, hope is spreading. That's because Congress recently authorized the Departments of Labor and Homeland Security to up the cap to 130,000 visas. Still, that might not be enough.
50% of the businesses nationwide are not going to receive their workers. What is that going to do for our economy? Not just in Louisiana, but nationwide. There are horror stories of landscaping people from Louisiana that may not have 30 people. There's no way that they're going to be able to survive. Those businesses are going to go out of business, and when they do, it's going to hurt the economy for Louisiana.
Louisiana's sugar industry could be one of the hardest hit because sugar mills depend upon the H2B visa program to get the people who operate the boilers. No boilers, no sugar. It may force a debate in Washington, one Romero hopes does not get caught up in confusion.
People want to tag this to immigration, and it's not. They are not coming here to live. They're coming here to work, and they're going to return home to their families.
Just as the Tigers and Cajuns have their teams on the field, those who depend upon the H2B guest worker program have a team hard at work for them.
Obviously, Farm Bureau is very well involved. Brian Breaux and many of the other people have gone to Washington themselves, and they've knocked on doors and tried to plead our case.
But with only 2/3 of a full team, Romero could find himself sacked.
So if I don't have those guys, I doubt very seriously if I can stay in business.
And that would not be a win for anyone. In Lafayette, I'm Avery Davidson for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
Troy Romero is hopeful his 5 workers will get to come into the United States to work for him. However, they're already 2 months late, and with his business, Romero says he cannot stretch the season out past September, so it's just time lost. In the coming weeks, we'll talk to the men and women who operate sugar mills to find out what we can expect when sugarcane harvest begins. For decades, cotton has been a top commodity in Louisiana, but in 2008, cotton markets fell to record low prices, and with that, cotton acreage followed. Today, that trend is turning around. This week, TWILA's Carl Wiggers traveled to Richland Parish to learn why they are working to rebuild the white gold capital of the South.
In Rayville, the Mills family is hard at work fertilizing their cotton. Kyle Mills has been farming for more than 50 years. He's grown cotton for most of those years, but even he moved to grain when the market broke records 10 years ago.
About 10 years ago, I guess, people started getting away from cotton. We did too.
Most of those acres of cotton turned to corn.
Corn was a real good option, at first. Well, for a few years it did real good. Soybeans did real good. Going back to cotton, it looks like now.
There is definitely cotton in the future for these guys. Kyle's son, Cliff, manages much of the day-to-day business on the farm now.
Everything used to be cotton.
Last year was the first time they'd grown cotton here in a few years.
We went from 0 to 1750 acres, and we ended up on 1,750 acres, averaging 1,050 pounds. So we stepped it up again, and we've got about 4,700 acres of cotton planted.
In 2 years, this farm has gone from 0 acres of cotton to nearly 5,000. All of these acres returning to cotton looks great for the cotton industry. However, the infrastructure that the cotton industry depends on has been suffering.
This will be my 32nd year to run a gin.
Tom Calloway is the general manager here at the only gin remaining in Richland Parish.
This year will be one of the largest years we've ever had here at Rabel Producers Incorporated.
One reason Calloway is preparing for that high volume is because of the increase in cotton acreage this year.
Last year we had close to 140,000 acres. This year we could have, as the USDA reports, close to 200,000 acres.
This gin is where almost a quarter of those cotton acres will come to.
We're right now at 48,000 acres. We could be looking anywhere from, 80 to 125,000 bales.
In the year 2000, this cotton had other gins it could go to. That year, Louisiana had 56 gins to handle more than 800,000 acres of cotton. Today, only 18 gins remain for around 200,000 acres of cotton.
We need to hold on to the infrastructure that we have left because we've lost a lot in the last 20 years.
3 years ago, we were at the lowest amount of cotton acreage since records have been kept in the state of Louisiana. We had got below 120,000 acres.
Cotton is back on the rise, though. This is Ryan Wilkerson's second cotton crop to farm with his uncle and grandfather.
I'm excited about it. I'm ready to see that, the acreage change to cotton out of grain, because you couldn't ask for more of a beautiful crop than cotton is when it's ready.
He says cotton is just the crop that belongs here in these fields.
It's bringing back the old traditions. It's bringing back the white gold capital. It's really bringing back a lot of old history in this ground that hadn't been cotton for years.
I miss the smell of defold cotton and cotton ready to be picked. And when they think about harvest, and I do too, you think about the white fields. I think everybody misses it. So everybody I talk to, farming or not, is excited to see it come back.
Skeen says that he expects to see this trend continue in the coming years. However, as cotton acreage continues to increase, those farmers have got to get some kind of protection from the current Farm Bill.
In the 2014 Farm Bill, cotton and dairy were two of the largest commodities that really lost their place in the 2014 Farm Bill, which is the Farm Bill that we're under right now.
The cotton industry leaders are working hard to get the cotton seed designated as an oil seed to get some level of assistance from this Farm Bill. That would place the cotton seed under Title I of the current Farm Bill.
So much hard work was done to lobby on those efforts to try to make Congress aware, the House and the Senate, on both sides of how important it was to get cotton, even if we couldn't get it in the form of lint, to get cotton seed back under Title I.
Skeen and many others in the cotton industry were very disappointed that their efforts fell short, as this proposal did not make it into the recent omnibus bill. To learn more about this proposed cottonseed policy, head over to our website at twilatv.org. And Kristen, I've told people all the time that I'm from a farm, and when they ask what kind of farm I'm from, sometimes out of habit, I still tell them I'm from a cotton farm. My dad hadn't grown cotton in 10 years, and so it's really exciting to me to see cotton coming back and making a resurgence into the industry.
The first fall that I worked here, I will never forget the first cotton harvest story that I went on, and it was the most beautiful sight I think I've ever seen, and still to this day one of my favorite stories. So I always love it when it's cotton harvest time.
Me too.
So I look forward to seeing more stories this fall.
I look forward to going and shooting them. One of the favorite things, and they talk about it in the story, one of my favorite things about cotton is the smell, and anybody that's ever been around cotton will say the same thing.
And I've heard so many people say that, and I've yet to experience yet to figure out what the smell is, but I'll be on the lookout this year. Carl Wiggers, thanks. Well, your favorite pair of blue jeans is depending on you to protect the farmers who grow the cotton used to make them. The threat is this little insect. It's the boll weevil. And while we have not seen a boll weevil in Louisiana for a number of years, it's the job of the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry to monitor for this pest. As you would expect, that means setting up traps around beautiful fields like this one. Cotton is such a beautiful plant that some of you even like to use it in your landscaping. It makes sense because of the pink and white flowers which become wide open bowls. But there is something you must do if you grow cotton in your home. Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry, Dr. Mike Strain, says you must contact his office so they can monitor your plants too. Strain says it's extra important this year because farmers planted 36% more cotton this year than last, up to 190,000 acres.
So there's going to be a lot more activity, a lot more cotton, and we have to monitor that because you could lose 40 or 50% of your crop if there's an introduction of this weevil. And that weevil can multiply over 7 times in one generation. That's why it's so very, very important. And again, this is part of the horticulture and the quarantine. And so before you plant this, or especially if you have some cotton plants that you're going to put outside for whatever reason, please let us know. There's no charge for this, but we need to know about it because we are protecting a $175 to $200 million a year industry here in Louisiana simply by monitoring for this pest.
If you are growing cotton in your yard, you can either call the Department of Ag and Forestry at 225-922-1338 or email the Louisiana Boll Weevil Eradication Program. The address is Boll Weevil, all one word, at ldaf.state.la.us. We'll also include a link with all of that information on our website at twilatv.org. Fullness Farms got its start with a simple idea: get the people the freshest, tastiest food around, all from a small farm located just off Nicholson Drive in Baton Rouge. Founder Grant and Allison Guidros have their own farm formula. Hard work plus a vision equals success. This week, AJ Sabine brings us the freshest taste around.
On a beautiful Saturday morning, Fullness Farms prepares to bring fresh to the masses. Located near the corner of 5th and Main Street, founder Grant Guidros makes sure that everything is perfect for today's market.
As soon as you pick it, it's deteriorating. And growing it locally allows and selling it the day after. A lot of these things are less than 24 hours old. A lot of these things we picked yesterday afternoon. And so it also allows us to grow varieties that we're not selecting varieties to grow that can ship well across the country, that we're picking green and shipping and then gassing artificially. We're letting those mostly ripen on the vine and selecting varieties for their flavor and nutritional content instead of tomatoes that we can harvest all at the same time with mechanical harvester and ship them green. And we're more interested in the freshness and really having the highest quality.
As the market opens, the crowd flows through the day's bargains. For Grant and his wife Allison, it's the connection with these customers that bring him back to this market week after week.
It's something beautiful. It's something really ancient. We've been having farmers markets since people have been getting together. So so in a way, it's I feel a part of something really old, but I also feel a part of sort of like a renaissance of good food and community, and the people that come here. It's almost like it's like a little community. It's just right below family. It's people at the market because we see them every week, and I'll meet customers and they'll say, oh, I'm pregnant. I'm really concerned about what I'm eating. I'm only gonna be eating your stuff or something like that. Or the kid comes and the mom's like, you see their baby after it's born, and then she's like, and then you say, it's gonna be its first meal today. They're gonna have your squash or something like that. So the market is really reaffirming when you get the affirmation from the customer that, hey, keep it up.
Guidros explains that the market has broadened the appeal of his products. For instance, Fullness Farms has expanded its customer base to include local restaurants.
Our first year, we were probably 80% farmers market, 80% Saturday farmers market, and 20% other restaurants and other things. And this year, we've doubled our sales, and it's more 50-50. It's more 50% market, 50% other. And that's been nice. It's allowed us to start harvesting twice a week. And that's really nice because things that we don't sell on Saturday, we have a market for them at the beginning of the week to the restaurants, and vice versa. We can harvest at the beginning of the week and on Wednesday and still get it, use it on Saturday.
Still, the farmers market thrives on consistency. Customers like Dwayne Mercer love the relationships between farmers like Guidros and others who sell at the market.
Because we know the food comes fresher from right down the street. It's not traveling across the country or from different other countries.
Boy, he said a mouthful. At the Red Stick Farmers Market, I'm A.J. Sabine for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
Fullness Farms can be found at the Red Stick Farmers Market just about every Saturday. Guidros explains that business has picked up so much over the years that he just hired his first full-time employee. For more information about Fullness Farms, log on to our website at twilatv.org. A new agriculture task force has been appointed to help keep the people who make our food and fiber afloat. We get a reaction from Congressman Ralph Abraham up next. Stay with us.
I now hope they're fighting today.
I hope they are. Put a Dorito on here.
I got a fish! I got a fish!
Find your place in the country and the lender who can get you there. Find Louisiana Land Bank. Financing for country homes, recreational property, farms and ranches, and agribusiness.
Before you sweeten your morning joe, before the icing on the cake, before the sugar hits the shelf, it begins with a family of sugarcane farmers dedicated to growing Louisiana for more than 220 years. The Sugarcane Growers of Louisiana, making life sweeter, naturally.
Sugarcane, sweet sugarcane.
Wheat in Louisiana is considered a secondary crop by most grain farmers who mostly grow soybeans and corn. However, it plays a primary role not only in keeping them profitable, but in crop rotation to keep fields healthy. However, Louisiana has seen a drastic reduction in wheat acres here lately, and LSU Ag Center correspondent Craig Gautreaux finds out why.
People driving across rural Louisiana are not going to see many amber waves of grain. Wheat acres are nearly non-existent this year, as only 16,000 acres are being reported by governmental agencies that monitor the commodity. The two main reasons are prices and weather conditions that caused disease development for the past 2 years.
Issues with the environment and also a disease called scab. And combine all that together, it just left a bad taste in growers' mouth, and they didn't want to plant any wheat this year.
Some wheat varieties need cool weather to spur growth, and this year's mild winter has caused issues related to this process, which is called vernalization. Paget says wheat fields across the state are suffering.
Only 1% is rated as excellent, and there's a lot of wheat that's probably in the poor to fair category right now because of the environment.
Scientists with the LSU Ag Center are working with other universities to develop varieties that are resistant to scab and are evaluating their performances across the state. A group of high school students attended the Wheat Note Field Day with their teacher in preparation for participating in a statewide FFA agronomy competition.
Some of the concepts that I've been covering with them for months, we came out here, saw the plants in person, and within 5 seconds they're like, oh, that's what you meant.
Events like this help sharpen the team's skills and led them last year to become the first team from Louisiana to win the national title in the 86-year history of the competition. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
Soybeans are often planted after wheat is harvested, allowing farmers to grow two crops on the same ground and generate additional income. This is important not only for making more wheat, but for protecting the existence of our farms through diversification. More on this story can be found on our website at twilatv.org. Last week we brought you the story of how President Donald Trump started a new agriculture task force designed to address the needs of America's farmers, as well as rural areas that depend upon ag and their economy. 3 of its members are from the South, which is important not only in representing the area we live in, but helping maintain the safe and affordable food supply you depend on. Joe Mapes, Louisiana Farm Bureau's lobbyist, caught up with Representative Ralph Abraham to find out what that means for all of us in a segment called Grassroots Government.
I'm Joe Mapes, lobbyist for the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. This week, President Trump issued an executive order creating an ag task force led by newly appointed USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue. This task force was one of Secretary Perdue's first actions as Secretary of the USDA, creating this task force. It's created of industry representatives, cabinet secretaries, and people who know about agriculture. Somebody who's very excited about this and very passionate and supportive of this is Congressman Ralph Abraham.
Luckily, we've got the Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, that will lead the task force, along with a lot of secretaries from the other Labor, EPA, Attorney General, Defense, a really good crew of people that will be on this task force. What the President is wanting to do is actually listen to what they have to offer. What are the impediments to farming, certainly in the rural community that we live in the 5th District, but not only that, all of Louisiana, and certainly all of the South. We've got a lot of problems, as we know, right now in the agriculture community. High production prices, low commodity prices. The President actually had a roundtable discussion before he signed the executive order, and again, a listening session with some really great people, one of those being Zippy Duvall of the American Farm Bureau, who, again, knows his subject well, and again, the President's willing to listen to the experts in the room. They've got 180 days to come up with some ideas, some solutions that the President will hopefully take to heart, and again, make farming more lucrative, where our farmers can actually try to make a dollar. Our ranchers, our crawfish producers, our aquaculturists, everyone involved in the agricultural community.
This is grassroots at the highest level, sitting around the table with the President of the United States of America in support of agriculture. Speaking of being in support of agriculture, that's just what our Louisiana congressional delegation is, supportive of agriculture. So this week, we ask you to reach out to them, here's a link for you, and say thanks for being in support of agriculture.
Participating in government has never been easier. On our website, you'll find a link to Voter Voice, where you can contact your representatives in government and give input on the issues that you care about. And you can sign up for the weekly Grassroots Government newsletter as well. To find out more, log on to our website at twilatv.org. Coming up, we'll have a look at your photos that you sent in for TWILA Ag Picks. There are so many good shots we saw highlighting the beautiful farms and rural areas around Louisiana. Trending on TWILA is up next. Stay with us. In this week's Trending on TWILA, a photo challenge goes viral and we jumped on the bandwagon. A few weeks ago, someone on Facebook decided to start an agriculture photo challenge by posting just one ag-related photo and tagging a few of their ag friends, requesting that they do the same in return. The goal was to fill Facebook with agricultural pictures to remind folks of where their food and fiber starts. Once the trend caught on, we saw all kinds of photos from all over North America, from Canadian wheat fields and snow-covered tractors to cattle grazing the open plains, pink little pigs, and even a llama, and I have to say that one was one of my favorites. We also enjoyed the photos we saw from the folks right here in Louisiana. George Adam Falk posted this beautiful photo from the field at sunset. Garrett Andrew Dye shared this photo of a mound of golden corn unloading from his combine. Amelia Kent posted this photo of her cattle grazing in a lush green field under a blue sky day. So this week we joined the trend and shared a harvest sunset photo taken by our former intern, Taylor Fry. We asked our followers on Facebook to share your ag photos with us, and lots of you did. Christy Ingram shared a stunning photo of her grain bins at sunset. Kyle Dill posted a pic of his 2 children running through a field of sprouting corn. Colleen Perilou posted her Creole tomatoes and bell peppers grown in St. Charles Parish. And Rudy Champagne shared several photos with us, and they were all so great that we couldn't just choose one, so we had to share all of them with you at home. Keep sharing your ag pictures with us. We love to see our newsfeed covered with photos from the farm. Now moving on to this week's TWILA Trivia. Last week our question was, according to the USDA, about how many schools participated in the Farm to School program last year? And the correct answer is B, 42,000. This week's trivia question is, each year the average person consumes about 580 pounds of which product? Is it A, pork, B, poultry, or C, dairy? To enter this week's trending trivia contest, simply log on to your Facebook or Twitter account and post your answer with the hashtag TWILA Trivia, or you can always submit your answer on our website at twilatv.org. Well, that does it for this edition of TWILA. Next week, the crew is headed to Texas for a tour of their farm bureau, as well as 2 days of professional training in Houston. That means we'll be in reruns, but we should be back in 2 weeks with a brand new Feasting on Agriculture. In the meantime, you can watch all of our stories and check out a few extras. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and check out our stories on Snapchat. For all of us here at TWILA, thanks for watching. We hope to see you again right here next week.